Wallpaper starts with ink sketches. I've done these for years. I have videos on this channel where I've done some. I've done them in dry erase, which is how I started my channel, doing landscapes in dry erase. So it's something that I'm known for. It's something that I do really well, and I enjoy it. So I wanted to blend that world with generative art. So I had this idea long ago to make a practical work, which was a collage of different hand-drawn elements. So I could draw a tree, cut it out, draw another tree, cut it out, put all these elements together on a page in a kind of a collage, and then that was the artwork. And I thought it was a cool idea. I tried a couple of them, and it didn't work out so well. And I don't know what it was about it. I wasn't happy with it, so I just gave up on that idea. And then I worked as a graphic artist in a t-shirt shop. I learned how to do a lot of the tricks of graphic art. So I thought maybe if I take it from a practical realm into a digital realm, it'll work out better. So that's what I did. I took the elements, the hand-drawn elements, and scanned them, turned them into a vector, and then stylized it with this drop shadow and the outline. It kind of gives us this interesting paper feel to the graphic. So it doesn't look flat on the page, doesn't look like it's a part of the digital world. It looks like a practical element that's been dropped in there. Does that make sense? Anyway, in my mind it makes sense, and that's kind of where I was going with this in the digital world. So I did a work like this a few years ago. I might have a video on my channel that describes it in more detail, but I really loved how it turned out. So I thought maybe I could do some of these and sell them practically at some point. Well, before I got to that point, NFTs and generative art became a thing in my life, and I thought maybe I could offer this as an NFT. So I started working on that idea back in December and got it all kind of hashed out and put together into something that I'm really happy with. It was a lot of work. Just coming up with the idea and planning it out was a lot, and then drawing the assets, that took a long time and takes a lot of expertise. I mean, I just sat down with no previous experience in art and drew trees. It's like I've been drawing these trees for decades now, which I actually love. I love these trees. It's something that I just enjoy doing, and I think I do a pretty good job of it. So I put all that work, all that experience into this generative system. So here I'm doing manually what the generative system will be doing. It'll be picking these pieces up, dropping them down into a display area, and figuring out what densities randomly to arrange this landscape. Here's all the assets that are in Wallpaper. These are all each hand-drawn and have been converted into vector assets, digitized, and added to the system. I created this extra graphic, the layout of all of the assets, just as a bonus for collectors who really enjoy this thing on a technical level as well as on an aesthetic scale. So here's the various outputs that this system generates. Here's when everything is put into the system and it's randomly placing it. It's coloring it and stylizing the output a little bit from a processing point of view, but most of it is already pre-done in the assets. So I'm taking the graphic realm and kind of adding some processing to it in the generative system in order to get the final output. So there's a little bit of extra going on there. And then figuring out what my rarities will be, what of the regular output. Now this is what's most common. This is what you'll most commonly see. And then there's rarer types that include like the manzanita tree. There might be a larger cluster of trees. There may be a sunset or snowfall. Those are some rare elements. And when those extremely rare elements appear, there'll be a signature graphic in the lower left-hand corner that kind of denotes that this is rare among the average ones. Then, just to have fun, because I live in the Pacific Northwest, I had to put Bigfoot in there. This scenery is inspired by the world around me where I live, and in that world is the legend of Bigfoot. So I felt like it was maybe a tribute to this legend that I would drop him in this, or her, in this artwork as a super rare item. So of the Bigfoot, there's this type of rare item, and then there's an extra rare item, which is like the card that you collect. And if you get this asset, if you press V, it will give you the asset list as kind of a bonus. So I'm going to offer somewhere around 250 of these in an edition, and I'll calculate the probability of at least one time there'll be a special card Bigfoot in there. So it's going to be a super rare item, if it shows up at all. And if it does, whoever has that will have the bonus background with the asset list on there. So the coding was pretty simple. I approached it from a procedural method instead of modular, so it's just basically brute force conditions that determine what's going where, and that's all organized in the procedure. So what comes first in the procedure is what gets dropped down in the scene first, so it kind of works like that. I don't think there's hardly any modularity in this. It's just pretty procedural coding, so it's not very complicated from a coding perspective. But when you consider what assets are there, how the assets were designed to fit into the system, how everything was calibrated so that the output is nicely arranged and each piece is pretty unique, but it fits in a family of art, that is, I don't know, I feel like that's a little impressive. So I take a little bit of pride in what I've been able to do here, and I hope if you decide to collect this token that you'll take some pride in it as well. Let me know what you think about Wild Paper in the comments. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. If you have, thank you so much. And I guess until next time, take care.